Welcome to Drunk Dog Creative. Today I'm going to show you how to crochet a simple granny square. I'm using very chunky yarn and a very large hook to make it easier for you to see on camera. But you can make granny squares with any yarn and any size hook that you want. Just make sure that the hook is the appropriate size for the yarn that you've chosen. I'm going to get my yarn barf out so I can center pull. There's 3 stitches used in a granny square. There is a slip stitch, a single crochet in US terms, which is what I use in my videos, called a double crochet in UK terms, and a double crochet in US terms called a treble crochet in UK terms, just to confuse everyone. So I'm using US terms. I may live in Australia, but I was born in America and still have the accent. So I learned to crochet using US terms. So the first thing you want to do is create a slip knot any way that you want to. I do it by wrapping twice around, pulling one over and catching it, and then pulling that one over so that that one's through. But honestly, there are so many ways to create slip knots. I'm not worried about it. You can do it any way you want. You can also start a granny square with a magic circle, which is usually my preferred way of doing it if I want the center to be closed tight without the little hole in the middle. But you can do it any way you want. Then you do chain stitches, and it's usually like a chain 5. Now to do a chain stitch, I have the hook, which is this part, facing down when I work. My yarn goes, and again, any way you hold it is okay. But if you're really beginning, I put the yarn between the pinky and that finger, lay it over and around that finger, and then my middle finger and thumb pinch right under where I'm stitching to help keep some tension there. And the pinky part allows me to control how fast or slow this pulls through. This finger lets me tighten the yarn, and these fingers hold the tension on the stitches. Now, this setup is the hardest part of crocheting because this takes a long time to find the setup that works for you and to get it all coordinated and working. This is the thing you have to practice on because this left-hand setup is what affects the tension of your stitches, which affects their evenness, whether they're too tight, too loose, whatever. So don't get discouraged if your stitches are all over the place and if you have to keep dropping your hand and redoing it. It doesn't matter when you're beginning. Eventually, you'll get to the stage where you find the grip and the handhold that's right for you, which also goes for the hook. There are 2 types of grips. One is a knife hold where your hand goes around it and your finger sits up there, just like you'd hold a knife at dinner. The other is a pencil grip, which is what I use, which is where you're holding it like you would a pen or a pencil. No rights or wrongs. You'll work out what's good for you. I'm going to start with 5 chain stitches. So if you've got the loop on, put your hook under the yarn and around so that if you pull it through, that hook grabs that yarn and just pull it straight back through and then flip your hook around again. So that's 2 that I've done. So again, a chain stitch is simply yarn over and pull back so that it hooks it and pulls it through. And you end up with chains. So just yarn over, pull it straight through. Yarn over, pull it straight through. And if my hook ends up facing up, which it often does, I twist it so it's facing down before the next stitch. So I've got 5 chain stitches. Then I'm just going to go into that first stitch, right through the middle is fine. And I'm going to do a slip stitch to close this chain, which again, now my hook is through there, it's pointing down. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull it back, hooking that and pull it through both and then pull that tight and get the tail out of the way. So now I've got a ring that I can work into. Now, granny squares are done with clusters of double crochet stitches, usually clusters of 3. The first round, though, I'm going to chain 3. So 3 more of those chains, and that's going to count as my first double crochet, only at the start of the round. So to do a double crochet, I'm going to always work into the center of the ring in round 1. So I'm going to put the yarn over my hook. Then I'm going to put my hook right through the middle of the ring. And I'm going to yarn over and grab that yarn again. And I'm going to pull that yarn through the ring. And you just pull it up a little. So now I have got 3 loops on my hook. So again, with the hook facing down, I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull through 2 of the loops. So now I've got 2 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops again. So that's my first double crochet made. So the chain 3 counts as 1. That's the second one. I'm now going to do a third one. So I'm going to yarn over, put my hook into that center, yarn over, and pull that through. And you can tug it so it comes sort of up to the right height. Now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. And that's my first cluster of 3 double crochets made. So the chain 3 and 2 double crochets makes my first cluster of 3. I'm going to now chain 2. So remember, yarn over and pull straight through, chain 2, and I'm going to do 3 more double crochets. So yarn over into the center, yarn over and grab that yarn and pull it through. So I now have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's 1 double crochet made. I've got to make 2 more. So yarn over, in through the hole, yarn over and pull through that loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'll do the third one without talking, but I'll do it slowly. So now I have another cluster of 3 double crochets. So again, chain 2, yarn over, pull straight through the loop, yarn over, pull straight through the loop. And then I do another cluster of 3 double crochets. Yarn over, in through the hole, yarn over, pull it up through the hole, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops. So I'll do 2 more. And you can just keep moving them if they're getting in the way. 1 more. So I have a third cluster of 3 double crochets, and I do another chain 2. And now I do a 4th and final cluster of 3 double crochets. One, 2, get the tail out of the way, 3, and you guessed it, 2 more chains. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and then we do a slip stitch to that top chain of so there's the 1, 2, 3 chains that make the double crochet. If you go into that top chain and just do a slip stitch. So now you've got your first round done, where you've got chain 3, which makes your first double crochet, 2 more double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, slip stitch to that the top of that first stitch. Then to do round 2, we're going to chain 3, 1, yarn over, pull through, 2, 3. Now we actually want the first ones to go in here. So this first stitch, it's going to feel like you're working backwards, but you're not. So yarn over, in through that hole, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So your chain 3 is your first double crochet, then you have a second double crochet, then you do 1 more. Yarn over, in through that chain space, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you've done, effectively, you have another 3 double crochet cluster. Chain 2, pull some more yarn out, and look for the next chain space. So in granny squares, we work in the chain spaces. And what you're going to do is a cluster of 3 double crochets first. So it's 3 double crochets. Going a little faster here. I'll slow down on some of them. And then you're going to chain 2, and you're going to do another 3 double crochets in that same hole. So just do these quickly so I can explain what happened here. Oh, sorry. There's my third one. Okay, I went a bit fast there. But what I've got in this chain space is 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets, and that makes your corner. And I know you're asking, but we only did 1 in this one. Well, wait till we get there and I'll show you why. There is a reason. But you've got a corner, which is made of 2 clusters with a chain 2 in the middle. And then you chain 2 again, and you do, again, that same thing in the next chain space. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So let me go slow again on the double crochet. Yarn over into the chain space, yarn over so that your hook catches it and brings it up as a loop. You now have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, 1 double crochet made. You need 2 more of these. There's your first cluster done. Chain 2 to create a chain space between them, and 3 more double crochets. And another chain 2. So that's your next corner made. There's 1 more corner to do before we get to the final one. So again, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Chain 2, 3 double crochets. And yes, I'm going fast, but I've been doing this for 50 years, so. And then another chain 2 at the end of that, which brings us back to this space we started in, which is this space right here. So now, at the end of the round, you're going to do the 3 double crochet, chain 2, slip stitch to finish off that corner. So you do half of the corner at the start and the other half at the end, which gives you nice, even corners. So yarn over into the hole, yarn over, pull up a stitch, a loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, do 2 more of those double crochets, so you have 3. Do a chain 2 and slip stitch to that top chain of your starting chain, just a slip stitch. So all a slip stitch is, I forgot to show you, is you put your hook in, yarn over and grab the yarn, and you pull it straight through both loops. So there's no actual stitch created. It's the same height and level. So now that's your second row of your granny square done, where what you've got is 4 corners with 1 space on each side and a space, chain space in each corner. So the third row now sets the pattern for how you do all the other rows. And I'm going to explain that now. So chain 3, yarn over, pull through 3 times. That's your first, counts as your first double crochet. Into that corner chain space that you've just come out of, you're going to do 2 more double crochets. Big yarn. Hard to hold sometimes. Do a chain 2. Now, this next chain space is on the side. It's not in a corner. So if I do the cluster of 3, chain 2, cluster of 3, I'm going to get another corner, and I don't want it. So what I do is just one cluster. So 3 double crochets and a chain 2 in that space. So I've done my chain 2 coming out of there. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets into this chain space. And then a chain 2. Then I'm ready to do the next corner. So you don't want a corner there. So on these side bits, you just do 1 cluster, and in the corners, you do 2 clusters. So after my chain 2, I'm going to do 3 double crochets in the corner. I'm sorry, that is my dogs playing. I have 3 dachshunds, and they play hard. That's first cluster of 3, chain 2, second cluster of 3 in the same chain space because it's a corner. And then again, chain 2. And then I'm at a side one again, so it's only 1 cluster of 3. And chain 2. You always chain 2 in between them so that you create the chain space for the next row to go into. Now we're at another corner, so it's 2 clusters. So 3 double crochets, chain 2. The yarn is not pulling as easily as I'd hoped. I have to keep stopping. And then another cluster of 3 double crochets. And then a chain 2. Now we're at a side one, so it's only 1 cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3, chain 2. We're back at a corner again, so 2 clusters. So 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and another cluster of 3, 1, 2, 3, and chain 2. All right, almost to the home stretch. Side, so another only 1 cluster. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and now we're back to the beginning. And it is a corner, so we have to do the second half of that corner, which is 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 at the start of the round. Then what you've got is a granny square. Now that pattern just continues for as many rounds as you want to make it as big as you want. Always in the spaces. So these 2 side spaces, you do 1 cluster in each of those, and you do the double clusters in the corners. So you just follow the same pattern we did for round 3, where you do in every corner 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and in each side space is 3 double crochet, chain 2. Make sure there's a chain 2 out of it and into it. And you just keep going around. Now, a lot of granny squares will curve. You probably need to block them when you're done. Somewhere on the blog is a tutorial for blocking and how to do it. This is a basic granny square. There are so many patterns for all different types of squares that are just amazing. They're all over the internet. There's books on Amazon. There's a book I picked up from some little bookshop for $6 with like 63 different types of squares. Not all of them work in the round like this. The advantage of working around is you can make it exactly as big as you want it. If you're working a square in rows, back and forth, it's a little tricky to get it exactly the size you want it. But it certainly can be done. But that's your basic granny square. Once you've mastered this and your tension is flowing, have a look at what other kinds of squares you can do, because there are some amazing examples out there, including mosaic and brioche work and all sorts of things with all different patterns and motifs. It's a whole world out there. So enjoy and happy hooking.